You're still watching TVC Breakfast. Now, Nigeria launches its new tax regime on January 1st, 2026, aiming to ease the tax burden on low-income earners and small businesses. President Bola Tinubu calls it a once-in-a-generation fiscal research, disseminating criticism. Now, the reform targets revenue boost, improved business environment, and investment stimulation. However, opposition lawmakers raise concerns over alleged unauthorized changes to the gazetted law. Now, joining us to address these very important conversation is Oladejo, a partner with Addison, Nigeria. Now, he joins us for this very important conversation. Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well.
It's good to have you on the show.
Same here.
I'm going to start on a little bit of a lighter note, and I'm going to go deep into it. You know, over the holidays, people will say that when it comes to description will suffer at this point. If you're a person that you were not writing description before, right about now, you have to describe anything you're paying. But that's just on a lighter note. We're talking about this new tax, reform. The president has said no going back. He's been saying no going back, even since 2025. And we are starting it. It's been implemented. But a lot of people are concerned. People are worried that, okay, if we're eventually paying our tax, these Nigeria Revenue Service, what would the monies be used for? Is it really going to be used for roads? Because Nigerians over a period of time have been worried that, we pay tax, but we don't see the dividends of our tax. So now this revenue, corporation that is out that we pay our tax to, how are we sure that there's going to be accountability? How are we sure that there's going to be transparency? How are we sure that people will pay their tax and really see the dividends?
Okay. I mean, quite a number of things you put together there. And,
because it's 2026.
Yeah, exactly. The concerns that Nigerians have expressed, over the period, they are quite germane, and they have every reason to be concerned because it's like when you are in a marriage that you've been beaten and battered over the period, and suddenly you are beginning to see some ray of hope. You will think that maybe your spouse may want to go back to his old ways. So everywhere in the world, the issue of taxation is a social contract. The people pay taxes with the expectation. I said expectation because it can be taken for granted, that they are going to receive some dividend from the government. And that is the principle that is upheld everywhere in the world. Now in Nigeria, what has happened over the time is people have continued to play their part, right? But they've not seen that great extent of government participation the way they had always wanted. And you can look at issues of power, you can look at roads, you can just continue to mention the issues, insecurity and all of that. So because of that, when all of these were in the works, people were thinking, it's just going to be the same way. But the government came in, with heightened level of seriousness. On the 26th of June, the acts were signed by the president. And it's the first time you are having a 6-month window, right, for stakeholders to properly engage, for concerns to be heard, for the benefits to go round. This is what we want to do. This is what so. When all of those issues about a copy, the errors came up, the president, of course, we've always known the president to be a very determined man, went on to say, we are still going to pursue this interest because it is in the overall interest of the nation. So the benefits of having these reforms go the way it has been planned will definitely outweigh any bottleneck or challenges that we may experience. And the truth is, most of the concerns you even read online, some of them are not quite accurate.
Why do you say so?
Yeah, because there have been some misconceptions around, when people hear tax, the main issue is that the bulk of, we have huge population in Nigeria. But when you look at that population and you look at the number of active taxpayers that you have from the reports that have been, around, it's nothing compared to, the population that we have. Over the period, our tax to GDP ratio was dwindling around less than 10%. That tells you that you have, even though you have huge teeming population, the number of people contributing to it is not reflecting, the extent of population that you have. So people have always taken the issue of tax as I'm not the one they're talking to. It's only for the big guys. It's only for those in paid employment. We had significant issues with informal sector. You have teeming population of Nigerians that they don't even know anything tax. They didn't know anything.
But they'll speak about
but
it.
they just talk about it. They just hear about it. So it is the first time, right, that the issue of tax is taking this level of, is taking the center stage. It's beginning to be issue of national importance, right? And everyone on the road is bothered to say, oh, they're going to tax me. They're going So if for anything at all, these reforms has been able to achieve that. That's right. The next level of achievement we then want to see is to say, how do you then make people comply?
Comply and pay.
Exactly, and pay. Now, these are the people that didn't even know what they were supposed to do. And look at some of the objectives that the reform wanted to have. Consolidate, the tax laws. We've had these tax laws in piecemeal before now. You had the value-added tax act, you had the stamp duties act, you had the...
There are over 70 taxes.
Exactly. They were just plethora of them. Such that even if I, as an ordinary Nigerian, I even wanted to do the right thing. I couldn't.
You were not sure.
Because where do I start from? So the first thing is they've harmonized all of those laws to say...
But how is that not a fear to you, that if there's no accountability, you're not afraid about that?
You see, these are two ends of a stick. When you pick one end, automatically you have picked the other end. But someone rightly said, other than death, the only thing that is equally certain is tax, right? So, yes, you should hold government accountable. Yes, government should even be accountable.
Yes.
But government is saying, we will get to that part. We are working on it. Over and over, this committee that bathed this tax law has said they are also doing some works, on accountability side of things and all of that. But the fact that you have less accountability from the government does not make the need for taxpayers or citizens to comply. Because when you look at the nations where things work, right, nobody argues about taxes.
Everybody pays their tax.
Exactly.
That's
People
right.
actually pay the taxes. But you see, it would help a great deal if the government demonstrates that accountability even without people asking for it.
That's right. And a whole lot of people, as you said, they want to leave Nigeria to go to the like of UK, US, France, etc., where they believe that taxes work, even though they still complain that they pay too much tax when they go to that country. But I want you to speak to the fact that some are saying that by the time they start taxing, even this, it has actually started. Is it going to boost investors' confidence? The foreign direct investment, in Nigeria. In what place do you think that will help in shoring up the investment within the country that, at the end of the day, is going to boost the economy of the nation?
You see, it will boost FDI in no small measure, and I'll tell you why. When you have reforms like this that bring about certainty. What we've had before, we've had cosmetic changes to the tax laws. We've had, beginning from, say, 2019, for instance, we started having the Finance Act. The Finance Act would amend specific sections in the principal legislation, right? And you would have to refer to the next Finance Act. Then we had 2020 Finance Act, we had 2021. So as an investor, if you are planning your strategy, right, you are not certain that the next year's Finance Act isn't going to erode whatever tax planning opportunities that you've done. Now, what we've had now is a consolidation of you have something that they can say, oh, this is how this is going to happen. Income tax is going to steep in this manner by, say, 2028, and this is already enshrined in the provision of the law. If you take the issue of the surcharge, for instance, when you go to Chapter 7 of the Nigeria Tax Act, you will see that, okay, there's a potential 5% on fuel that could come up. It has not come up, but it could come up. So you see, those kind of precisions would help planning. And when investors can say for certain this is what is going to happen, they would have a lot more confidence in releasing their funds and bringing in their money to do business, within the country. So it's going to help in small measure.
In small measures. But, Mr. Shum.
Yeah. But if you take into consideration the historical trajectory, in relation to tax, I mean, I'm sure you are quite aware that we're coming from an angle that we don't know Nigeria has so much money, we don't know what to do with it. Our problem is how to spend it. So that's how we came from that angle, and people thought maybe there's no need to pay any tax, and government on its own part over the years are less accountable, like you correctly said. But bearing in mind the fact that, yes, currently the GDP to tax ratio is 13.5%. And bearing in mind that we are an oil producing country, and we've historically depended on 80% of the budget finance, on oil earnings. Now it's gone down to 70%. And I think the Ministry of Finance has a target by 2030, to achieve 40% GDP ratio. Bearing in mind, I just want to see whether you think it's practicable through the implementation of the finance tax. Bearing in mind that a similar country like Norway, has a GDP to tax ratio of 47%, even though they're also oil producing country, and they have a sovereign national wealth of over I think it's about 1.4 trillion, dollars, and we only have probably about $45 billion. Do you really think that the implementation of the new tax law will impact heavily not only on our foreign reserve savings, generate revenue, and achieve, the goal of the Ministry of Finance on achieving 40% tax to GDP ratio?
You see, I mean, and I love the way your question came in, that it took us back to memory lane. The periods when you were saying, oh, Nigeria has so much money, our problem wasn't money, it was how to spend it. But you see, something that was operational at the time was that even in primary schools, if they will ask you to go bring your parents evidence that your parent had paid taxes, and they will send you back home, back in the day. But over the period, everything just went quiet. The issue of tax, people, if you ask a regular vulcanizer on the street, he will tell you he doesn't know anything to do. So I am quite positive that whatever targets the country has set, because we have a lot of potentials that we have not unlocked. The target that has been set is very achievable, notwithstanding the reserves that you've mentioned, But the challenge is, how do you, because you have huge population of informal sector that has not been tapped. Now, when you also leverage technology, right? When you leverage technology that you can mine the data that you have. We have a lot of data points that we are not harmonizing and bringing together. Someone will tell you it was a bad year. 2025 was a bad year. But he traveled for vacation 4 times.
A lot of times.
Out of the country.
You understand my point? He traveled for vacation, and he's a family of 5, right? He took his family out.
Business class.
And he flew business class. So was 2025 really a tough year for him? So the challenge is, we have BVN, we have NIN, we have PVC, we have all of the data points here. Now, what the government is trying to do is to bring all of those things together. Now, mine the data. Be able to interpret whatever you have done. There are a lot of people that don't even file anything. So by the time you bring as many people into that tax net, then you're beginning to say, what other policy can you put together that would help the achievement of that goal? And of course, it's not going to happen overnight. It was the FRS chairman, now the NRS, it used to be FRS, chairman that was saying that Nigeria will need about 5 years, to actually fully implement this law. And those are the years estimated for mere implementation. There's something that needs to happen in the inside of Nigerians. Nigerians need to be able to attach the taxes paid to the amenities that they are seeing. Someone said something yesterday, I was in the program yesterday, and someone said he believes so much that things are going to change. And I said, why? He said, before now, we weren't paying, right? So it was like there was an agreement, there was an understanding between you and the government. I don't bother you, don't bother me.
But I'll ask you for dividends.
Exactly. I don't bother you, don't bother me, but we ask you for dividend. But you see, even if you don't provide the dividend, if you don't give me water, I'll dig my borehole, right? If the roads are bad, I buy SUV, right? If there's no security, I get my Megane. I will sort myself. So to that extent, don't really bother me too much. But now that you are pressing my neck,
and you know,
press my neck.
I was just,
I'm going to press your neck.
This is exactly where I want to
with the
come
taxes
to.
you have collected.
Exactly. And this is where I want to come to. I feel like it's not just going to be talk. It would take, you know, a lot of, you know, persuasion and a lot of Nigerians seeing what the tax is being used for Nigerians. Because I tell you, it's not like they don't want to pay tax. I don't think that it's not like they didn't want to pay tax, because other countries, the UK, you know, America, they survive. Like, they really pay tax. They know that it's serious. Like, you cannot go to UK and evade tax. It's a problem. You'll be arrested. But in Nigeria, over a period of time, we've had this like a discal attitude, because we always say, oh, we are not seeing the dividends. But right now, for even the youths, I'm a youth, so I see the conversations on social media. If you read the amount of comments of people to say, oh, I will not pay, you know, our roads are still bad, hospitals are bad. So it would take a lot to now convince, because at the end of the day, who makes up a nation? It's the youths that make up a nation. Now it would take a lot to convince these people that you can pay tax, you can see dividends. And there's something that you didn't really throw more light on for me, is this Nigerian Revenue Service. Trust me, if we do not have serious regulations and put accountability, there will be a big problem. You don't see that happening?
Well, I think everyone is going to be, it's like when you have new sheriff in town, right? Everything changed. The extent of changes that we've had now, we've not had that in a very long time. I'm telling you, even the tax practitioners now, right?
That's right.
I mean, there are provisions to say you have to be accredited. So you can't just show up and say, oh, you're a tax practitioner, you are representing other people. So it's like you've got eyes on everyone. So the issue of accountability would speak for itself over the time. It's not going to happen. Someone asks, what about the non-state actor? Are they all going to disappear? Some people will come to our shops and say they should pay. Once the laws have been, now that the laws have been consolidated, expectedly, they shouldn't show up. But it's not going to happen overnight. Because people have also built livelihoods around. There are people that have printed 2026 revenue receipts, not knowing what the laws are saying now. You know, so it will take some changes to happen. So I'm not really bothered about the account, because by the time you've seen how things have happened. You've seen when people have shown their displeasure. When the youth, like you mentioned, come up to show their displeasure. Now, for every transfer you make above 10,000, there's going to be 15 naira. You would see the charges. All of those funds will go somewhere. If the government is more empowered or better empowered to provide services and amenities to people, the government will do it. And particularly this administration. You see, this administration has taken some bold steps.
Bold steps,
Look at the issue of subsidy. Look at the issue of floating naira. It's not. It's no joke. I feel it would be a privilege for any president to come on board and be able to solve problems that have persisted over the period. And you see that the president is taking the bull by the horn. He's looking at what are the long-term benefits. Yes, there might be pains for today. Someone said something. Say what you like about the fuel subsidy, right? But have you queued up to buy fuel in any filling station in recent times? Have you?
No. That's right.
Those things used to characterize festive seasons every year for many years. Once it's December, once it's April, once it's
intentionally
exactly. But have you seen that now? The queues have disappeared because you now have supplies. So I'm saying, as you take those problems one at a time, they will get solved. Absolutely. You might not like the price points, but it's available.
Absolutely.
So you have solved the issue of exactly.
Right. So if you're not looking at it, I had a conversation with one of my in-laws who is a chartered accountant, and then you spoke to one of the things that he tried, because he was trying to make me understand the tax laws. And then he said something like, as you said, the tax managers will be accredited. Those will be working for companies. Those will be employed, or probably, let me just use the word employed, for companies will have to be accredited. So there is no way they'll be cooking the book anyway. But if the task force who are supposed to implement these laws, one way or the other, they try to like, okay, let's agree. You pay certain amounts, I pay certain amounts, we pay certain amount to the government, we share the remaining percent, which has always been the thing. Do you feel that implementation might be very, very difficult if we have people who compromise? Because the NRS boss will not be everywhere, as she has was concerned. It won't be everywhere to monitor companies that are compliant and all of that. What if we have saboteurs within the system to carry out this law? That's one. The second one, very quickly, is also, others are also saying, fine, it's a good law, it's good laws, 4 different tax acts, but we are implementing it when there is hardship. Can't we wait a little bit?
You see, if we wait until we are ready, someone said we'll probably wait for the rest of our lives. Think of great things that, even on a personal note, that people have had to achieve. You've had to do them regardless. If the president had waited to implement the subsidy removal, when would have been a good time since 2023 till now?
It will have been a manifesto for the next election.
It shouldn't have ever been.
Exactly.
That's right.
So I'm saying if we wait until we are ready, we would probably wait for the rest of our lives. So what the president realizes is, and that's why when you have someone coming up in the house to say that this was not the act, some days to implementation, people were really keen on what will the response be. And those things are culminating into improving the trust quotient. Because people are saying, is it going to be the same old, we've been preparing for it, it's coming, and then a day to it, we just see postponement. The president said, not this time.
That's right.
It's not perfect, but we're going to keep moving. And 2 days ago or so, we've got new set of laws, released.
Absolutely.
And by the time you check those laws vis-a-vis the things that were released before, there are changes. So I'm saying we have a way of solving our problems. So one critical point you mentioned is saboteurs. I think everywhere in the world, possibilities of compromises exist, right, in any system. Collusion can happen. People can come together to say, let us circumvent
to game the system.
Exactly, let's circumvent the system and all of that. So we cannot completely override the possibility of that based on this regime. But let me tell you what some of the safeguards that the government has done. There's a concept called tax ombudsman. Nigeria has never had that kind of concept before, where you have ombudsman. Is going to be like an adjudicator.
That's right.
For a taxpayer. Where a taxpayer, there's an office, the Nigeria Tax Administration Act sets that office up. They can recruit, they will have presence across the geopolitical zone. Where a taxpayer can lodge his complaint regarding the action or activity of the tax administrator. That's a laudable one. Such that you have someone who is by your side, armed with the law, experienced person, to be able to help you look into whatever the tax administrator is telling you. So the days of whatever the NRS says, they can corner you, those days are gone. So if you have an assessment and you don't agree with it, and you have your point of view, and the NRS says, no, this is not what it's supposed to be, you have an office that you can go to. Right? There's a concept that's been created. There are other countries like Sweden, like the South Africa, that are already using this, and it works well. So if it works the way it's supposed to work, the possibility of that collusion, has reduced. Aside from that, there are also stiffer penalties, in the law for whoever wants to game the system. The penalties are not smiling, this time. So
and I feel like, no, you can go ahead.
So you would have to think about your action, twice. And again, because you're going to have a lot of eyes on the entire system anyway, if anybody tips anyone off to say this is what is happening here, it will be a good example to be made so that everyone else can believe.
It's a new sheriff in town.
I know, and I love the fact that we also have penalties for people that, do not pay tax. Because, right from the beginning, I've spoken about the fact that I believe that as a citizen, you have to pay tax. It's something that you have to do, because we speak about other countries who want to jackpot, but those countries, you cannot do that there. But now what I want to say is that Nigerians, now we're asked to pay tax to the Nigerian Revenue Service. At some point, if we do not see the dividends, I'm sure we'll be able to speak up.
Of course, the opportunities for us to speak up have always been with us.
But before, a lot of people were not paying, but now people are going to be paying. So
exactly.
I feel like it's a lot of work and it's a lot of eyeballs on, the government and the tax revenue as well. Because if now people are paying, you know how Nigerians can be. If right now that they are paying their tax and the dividends is not being seen.
Okay, so let me just add something.
So we need to itemize the dividends.
Let me add something
because
to what you have said.
There will be riots.
Not everyone will pay to Nigeria Revenue Service. Just to balance that, there are states inland revenue services that individuals will pay to, depending on the states where they reside. Right? It is those that have company. The Nigeria Revenue Service administer the taxes of limited liability companies, corporates. Essentially. So if you are not a corporate, right, or you don't have a corporate entity, you actually may not have your income tax obligation for that entity paid to Nigeria Revenue Service. But for the individuals that will go online and complain, they will have to be paying their taxes to their states. And like you said, when participation increases, it emboldens everyone to be able to ask for the dividend. Where is it? Because when you were not participating at all, or you were not participating fully, you could look away. As your participation increases and you pay in pain,
you will want more.
Can I quickly ask a question?
Please.
Well, I noticed what you said about the personal income tax and the PSU hand, but the one being collected by the federal government, from my understanding of the tax, the new tax laws, would also be passed to the states and local government. That's for the corporate ones being collected by the federal government. That's one, which will increase revenue going to local governments and the states. But my main question is actually on to take a point from the point made by my colleague Ibrahim on whether there will be, the system will still be porous to collusion. What do you think? Do you really think is innovative? The idea that your thing will now be your NIN will now be your team. Therefore, no matter, even if you collude with a Nigerian Revenue Service official, it will be easier for the Revenue Service or the Ombudsman to just check your account and say, no, hang on a minute, you made 100 million naira. It's not 50 million.
If you can do that in less than,
I think it's innovative.
And I think they've communicated that, in recent time. I think it was communicated to say that, because the problem we've always had is having a unique identifier. A unique identifier. What identifies you uniquely as far as tax is concerned in Nigeria? What has happened is that it was based on residence, and because you had all these IRSs in the 36 states and the FCT.
I wish we had more time. We can go on and on and on about this. This is a very fantastic topic, very interesting as well, but we do not have enough time. Thank you so much, Mr. Deyemi. Really fantastic. I'm sure you were able to, make a lot of people believe that pay your tax and you will see the dividends. So please go out and make sure that we're going to have to bring you back. We'll definitely bring you back for this conversation. Make sure you go out and you pay your tax. But from salaries to small businesses now, we're going to go to Abuja, where TJ would have this very important conversation with us. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.